Welcome to my no-weld Franken pit. I'll show you how I made this 8-sided fire pit ring out of some scrap sheet metal I had lying around. The heart of the fire pit is this 10-inch by 17-inch rectangle segment. You'll need 8 of these. You can use anything from 22 gauge up. You can use any means at your disposal to cut the 8 rectangles. And that includes an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel, a bandsaw, tin sips, plasma torch, whatever you can get your hands on. In my case, I'm using my CNC construction set plasma cutter. Cutting sheet metal can be problematic without some kind of torch height control, especially old and warped scrap sheet metal like what I'm using here. On this particular machine, I'm using a Cap 4 capacitance torch height control. Cutting any kind of steel with paint or some kind of coating on it can be pretty nasty. I don't recommend it without a downdraft system on your plasma cutter. And this includes cutting it manually with a plasma torch as well. If you have to cut it like that, do it outside. The fumes can be deadly. This particular machine has a downdraft system venting to the outside. Each of the 8 segments needs to have a 45-degree bend on one end. Here I'm using my pneumatic finger brake, but other finger brakes will work as well. It all depends on the thickness of the stock that you're using. If you're using anything less than 18 gauge, you can probably get by with a couple 2x4s clamped together. Here are all 8 segments, all bent and ready to assemble. Notice the segment with the 6 bolts. I made this section up from 2 smaller pieces because I ran out of the larger stock. This is why it's called the Franken pit. It's time for assembly. Here my young helper is sorting the bolts we will need to attach the 8 segments. The flat end of one piece is placed over the bent end of another. A bolt and a washer is inserted through the holes from the outside of the pit. A plain washer, lock washer, and hex nut are then added to the inside. Note that these are only finger tight. Once all the segments are attached, she then goes back and tightens all the bolts with a wrench. Let's test the pit. Note that the bricks are optional. I use these to keep my steel ring off the ground. This kind of protects it a little bit longer from the rust. We add firewood. We had a rain recently, so the wood is just a little damp, so I'm going to give it a little nudge with my torch.
Almost out of gas. So that's good. I need to empty this tank.
Once it's fired up, I just kind of let it burn for a while. The goal here is I want to try to burn as much of the paint off as I can. After a couple hours, most of the old paint is burned off. Well, I haven't had a lot of luck painting my fire pits with high heat paint. I probably will give her a try in spring and see how long it lasts. Using the 17-inch long segments, I ended up with a fire pit that's on average about 40 inches across. If this is a little too big for you, you can reduce the size a little bit. Well, that's it. I have a full write-up of this on my website. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.